Good day, it's Officer Spears here, and I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about operating a boat while impaired. As everybody I'm sure knows, driving while impaired is a completely reckless and careless act that not only endangers the driver, but those around them. But a lot of people actually engage in the recreational activity of boating, especially during the summertime, and don't realize that boating while impaired or operating while impaired is just as dangerous as driving while impaired. Drugs and alcohol will impact you both in a vehicle and on a boat. So today I'm going to go over the fact that I actually enforce the boating laws in North Carolina as a wildlife officer. A lot of people don't realize that not only do I do hunting and fishing, I also enforce the boating laws. So to charge somebody with operating while impaired, they have to meet certain elements. So I'm going to go over those elements, starting with what waters of this state means. From there, I'm going to move on to what types of vessels we can charge on. After that, I'm going to go over what the definition of underway is and what it means to operate a vessel. And then finally, I'm going to wrap it up with what operating while impaired carries with it penalty-wise and how that compares to driving while impaired. So let's move on to the first topic, which is waters of this state. Waters of this state is any public waterway. Typically, that'll be your rivers, your lakes, and your streams. The only place that we cannot charge operating while impaired is private water, such as a private pond. You'll often find those on farmlands and that kind of thing. In those areas, we cannot charge operating while impaired. From there, an individual has to be on the waters in this state on some kind of vessel. Most people would think we can charge operating while impaired on a motor vessel, such as a power boat or a bass boat, a pontoon boat. However, that's only one subset of a vessel. Anything that floats on the waterway is considered a vessel. So not only your motorboats, but a sailboat, a kayak, a canoe, even a paddleboard is considered a vessel. So not only do they have to be on a vessel, but they have to be underway. And underway means that you are not tied to the dock, you are not run aground, and you are not anchored. If you are not one of those three things, you are underway. And then you have to be operating. Operating either means physically controlling the vessel, either by using a paddle or a steering wheel, or you are in apparent control, such as if you're in the middle of a lake, the only person on the boat and it's not anchored, you would be operating that vessel because you're the only one capable of operating it at that time. You're in apparent control. Now let's move on to operating while impaired and why it's important. In 2015, there were 21 boating fatalities and 166 boating accidents. About 20% of those accidents involved alcohol consumption. We strive to encourage and educate people to be safe on the road and on the water. And so we want to reduce the amount of alcohol that's consumed, leading to impairment both on the road and on the water. To help with that, North Carolina actually passed in May of 2015 a new law that stated anybody born on or after January 1st, 1988 has to pass successfully a boating safety course. The North Carolina Wildlife Commission offers those courses free of charge, and you can also take them online for a small fee. Those courses goes over the basic navigational rules on how to interact with other boats on the water. It goes over how alcohol impacts you 3 times more on the water than on land due to boaters' fatigue. And it will go over some of the penalties as well. So I highly encourage everybody to take that, even if you're not in that age group. From there are penalties for operating while impaired. In the past, it used to just be a Class 2 misdemeanor with a max fine of $250. Basically, that meant that if you had no prior convictions of criminal offenses and you were found guilty of operating while impaired, even if you killed somebody, you would only pay $250 with no prison time. On July 4th weekend of 2015, a young girl called Cheyenne Marshall was killed by a drunk boater on Lake Norman. He was charged with operating while impaired and charged with a Class 2 offense, served a day or two in jail before being released on bail, and paid $250 and served no prison time. Her family then petitioned the state to make the penalties for operating while impaired the same as driving while impaired. And that happened at the end of 2016. Governor Pat McCrory signed into effect House Bill 958, which made it where now, if you look at the statute for operating while impaired and driving while impaired, they are almost identical, other than vehicle and vessel are swapped, and waterway and roadway are swapped. So now if you injure somebody, cause property damage, kill somebody, or habitually kill somebody operating while impaired, it can potentially become a felony where you will serve prison time. However, driving while impaired carries with it a driver's license revocation offense, which means if you're convicted or fail to submit to the testing, you will lose your driver's license. Operating while impaired does not fall into that because there is no requirement to have a driver's license while operating a boat. They are trying to change that to hopefully prevent somebody who's impaired on the water to stop them from getting into a vehicle as they leave the lake and driving while impaired. So this was a very quick and brief synopsis on operating while impaired. And if you have any other questions, I hope that you will take a boating safety course where those questions will be answered, or you can contact me. I'm going to list in the description the references that I use for the statistics as well as the legalities that I have mentioned, and I will also list my contact information. So today we've gone over what operating while impaired is, the elements that are included in it, such as what the vessel is, what the waterways are, and what the definition of operating is. We've gone over the penalties for operating while impaired and how they are now stricter than they used to be, and how similar they are to driving while impaired with some differences. Have a great day, and I hope you stay safe on the water.